So
Well,
I think
thought we should
start
talk
off.
about drawing dicks on T's
No.
back. Yo, what's up? I don't even know what to call this. We always have some name for a show. It's just the summer recap show. How you guys doing? Kev, you man, congratulations. Have you ever done this before? You listened to every single show this summer. The whole tour.
Yeah, no, I
But-
usually listen to the whole tour.
But only
through.
once, right? You don't
Yeah.
go back and listen to anything.
I don't
ever.
go back and listen normally.
It's only the first time through.
I've come close, but I always miss like one or two. Like this run, right? I missed Raleigh. Like I had something going on, so it's like I always come close.
Raleigh was my favorite night watching because I had Katie, Benz, and Shafty on the couch watching with me because they had all come in from Merriweather. It was the first time in all those Phish streams I've watched since 2009 or whatever that I've had other people in the room with me watching it.
That's fun.
So that was the best part.
That's cool.
Yeah. I thought you were gonna say Raleigh was my favorite night of the tour. They absolutely killed. I was gonna be so upset because go to a bunch of shows, watch a bunch of shows. So tonight we're going to talk about the tour, obviously, but there's a couple of other things that have been popping up in this scene. This tour announcement. I'm going to look at these Reese's, these cups down here, and I can't get away from it. What do you guys make of this? It's like the Torch Tour, or
I think somebody saw a great promo idea and ran with it for one thing. But yeah, how fun, how cool. What a crazy little fall it's going to be with that going on.
You know, we were talking about this the day after Trey sat in because word had leaked out that there were, hotels.
Yeah, but it
booked and
seems
things
so
like that.
outrageous, though. Like,
Right.
they sat in with each other, so all of a sudden now they're going to go on tour together.
What I heard was it was going to be a Goose show, and Trey was going to be sitting in for the second set for 10 nights. I did not hear that it was Tab and Goose with a collaborative set, which is going to be crazy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for it. I'm really excited because the Reading venue is like 15 minutes from my house. So it's like, I thought the Man was a local show. Like, this is truly local. I could be back home in less than a half hour,
Nice.
getting out of there. So I'm excited for that, but we'll see. We're going to do some recaps. I don't know what the format is and the timing and everything yet, but we are definitely going to do some recaps. So it'll be fun. All right. So you guys want to get into the tour?
Yeah.
All right. So the first weekend, I wanted to start there. What was the big takeaway?
The first
You
weekend?
guys remember the first weekend?
Yeah, my big
it was
takeaway.
Mansfield and
Mansfield.
Bangor.
Right. My big takeaway was I had to open my big mouth and say that they weren't going to do any 20-plus minute jams. And then in Bangor, they did that Down with Disease. The thing being that the Down with Disease is what I remember from that show. I couldn't tell you another song they played that night or anything else that stands out.
In case you
Get into
forget.
that, but like, holy
That's
shit,
that's
that
why
was
we
cool.
aren't going to have any 20-plus minute jams. We aren't going to have any 20-plus minute jams because they figured out the segue. They no longer need to meander for 20 minutes to find out where they're going after 10 minutes.
We're still
They
going to have 20
figured it
minute
out.
jam.
They can
Yeah.
still.
Doesn't the voice of reason come in there? We're still going to have 20-minute jams.
Not that many though. Not like Fall Tour where every night you got one.
Well,
Yeah.
that was the night before that Down with Disease, right? That
Yes,
30
that
something
was.
minute.
Thank you.
At Bangor. So that was after Mansfield. Yeah. But you're right though. Your point remains. The whole tour, that was kind of a theme of like these micro gyms and you know what? It was really in line with 3.0, right? If we didn't have last summer, I don't think it would have been a weird tour at all. But I think for how often they did it, last year it was a weird thing now that we only got a handful of jams go post 20.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there were 3. Remember that album?
Yeah, I don't know. It threw me off. I was like, where the fuck's
well,
Llama
so-
go? We invite him
right.
to one show this year, and he's like, fuck you
So-
guys, I'm out of here.
So Mansfield, what was I know you have the set list in there. If you look at that set list right now, what jumps out at you as the biggest thing with Mansfield?
I mean, there was nothing that was super long, so you can't just go on a size queen. I remember that maze being fire on night 2 because Deer Creek was only that was like the last run, right?
Right.
With the slow maze and what they were going to do. And that was, if you remember, when he was like, what do you say? He's like, we're back, or it's back, and it's like they put a little extra mustard, as the kids say, on it. So that was really good. I remember the backwards pog where they where they did
right.
on
That
night
was that
1
weekend.
and then Mike's group. That was a really cool.
What did that pog come out of? Because that was one of those magic moments, I think, of the tour.
Yeah, that was out of plasma. There was chalk
Right.
dust plasma, and the segues. Holy shit! Do you remember how good?
Yeah.
I mean, the segues kind of stayed good through tour, but that first weekend, I felt like in particular was a really actually into the man too. Like that first week, I don't know if that's what the kids say.
Boomer kids.
Yeah, and then of course that out of that weekend, I think probably the Down with Disease, the 30 minutes, the return of the epic Down with Disease jam.
And it was. It's worthy, I guess.
Yeah,
and, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I think that Mike's Hydrogen Carini was cool. That second set opener, night 2, that we were talking about was cool. And then that Kev, you got your Wave of Hope that night.
Yes.
In night 2 to start off, Into the Hood.
Wave of Hope did become an MVP this summer.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of them has something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like in hindsight, the opening weekend wasn't the best, obviously, because like the tour got really, really good. But I'm looking back at or thinking back on like recent tour openers, and I feel like it's. I mean, like in direct comparison to Arkansas, I would put the Mansfield run or weekend a little bit up.
I think that it was good because it was April, then you had the spring tour, and then you had Mansfield. So they played every 6 weeks. There wasn't some
right. It wasn't 3 years or whatever, 2 years,
or even from Mexico. Even from Mexico,
right.
Summer tour
about that
is a pretty good gap, you know.
And even the fall tour opener in Sacramento was a little rough. Like we got some fun stuff with the brother and a few fun things, but there was a lot of shortness and a little roughness getting through. And I think this opener was way better. Like definitely these 2 shows actually were some of the best 2, I think, opening 2 salvos that they've played in a while. Like it was a really good start to the tour. And again, it wasn't really like a real opening because they just played sort of a part of summer tour a month before that. What was the date? Like June 5th.
Yeah.
So like, 35 day, or I don't know what it was, like a month and a half earlier.
Figure out a key period of time that like after this, like a critical threshold that like after you go through that far without playing, it's back to being a cold open, or cold.
Well, what do you think that says for Dick's coming up? Since there's a little bit of layoff, there will be a little bit of.
I hope we cross stuff off the board that was played at Alpine.
I think everything's back. It's 4 nights. I think everything.
Yeah, it's just like MSG or.
Yeah.
It's like it's its own island.
I think they're going to be pretty sharp at Dick's because I think that they're recording an album. So that's why we have a lot of repeats, because they're learning new songs and they're going to be playing together in between now and Dick's.
That's what we should write about for the Wookiee X Spice. Speculation of the new album. I will totally do a prediction.
But Trey's playing this weekend, isn't he?
Yeah. Or soon,
but it's been a while, man. When did Sigma Oasis come out? 2020.
During the pandemic.
Yeah,
but he's playing in New York though, yeah.
Yes.
Well, they're building a new studio too, a new recording studio. I don't know if it's done yet, but that's what they've been working on too, and that's where they were planning on doing some of that. So that's kind of what's in the works.
The barn is done.
Not done, but they're working on a whole new top secret, really cool studio that's coming that they're making, that they're going to be recording in.
speculation on what's next for Phish would be a good
Well,
topic.
so after Bangor, we
They
went
hit
to
their
the
stride.
Man.
They hit their stride that first.
And weren't you
night.
at those shows?
Me and Kev were roomies for a couple of days for those shows. It was cool, and I think I have attendance bias for sure, like because being there is an entirely different experience. But I felt like there was a significant step up once they got to the Man. And it held, I felt like, for most of tour.
Right. The first set was solid, uneven for me, but that second set, it seemed again one of those inspired moments where, all right, we're playing Tweezer. Wait, oh, we're playing Cities, and then what? Isabella ended up in there, and
Yeah,
it just seemed like they were having fun. Trey tried to throw the Man in for character 0. I'm waiting for the Man or whatever. So I think it's a hometown show for him almost.
the first set on like paper looks cool because they did the whole space theme and like opening with Space Oddity acapella was dope. But in reality, I think it was like very disjointed and sloppy and didn't really hit hard. There was like a shade Old Home Place like dip that just like killed the set. But then the second set was so good that it made up for it. And even then the theme too, because they brought back Mercury in 2001, so they rounded out the story with the space. The Tweezer Fest was dope. No, it was super fun.
And the second night was solid.
Yeah, definitely.
I
don't actually have any memory of the second. No, I do actually.
They did the Soul Planet. They busted out the Soul Planet that night, and it had its jam. I mean, like I talked about all tour long about, you just gotta hold on, I guess, for this first 4 minutes.
I like the theme of Waste Loving Cup encore.
Yeah,
that's fun.
And what was nice about that was it was the first show I got my wife to of the tour run, and it was cool because we've been going with larger crews lately, but for that show we went solo because we just wanted to see a show with just 2. And I don't get me wrong, I love seeing with the big crew where we have everybody there, but it was cool because she was like my original show partner. We saw like tons of shows together, and like Waste and Loving Cup, it was a really romantic. I'm revealing too much information, but it was a sweet moment.
It's making you endearing to our audience. Do we thank you for watching, audience? We appreciate.
No, but I mean, it's true. Like she is my show partner, and like it's when you have that moment, right? Like it's a nice.
Oh yeah, those moments.
That's who they play that for. I feel like it's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
It's not for everybody.
It's
you guys.
It's like their way of saying go home and procreate.
While listening to Phish. Wait, nobody else does that? All right. So Bethel, oh my God, we have the Bethel weekend next. With I'm gonna tag in Hartford there, kind of like we did Bangor with Mansfield. Right. This weekend was Bethel 2 nights, and then a night in Hartford. Kev, what did you make of those shows? You watched those?
I did. I thought that they were building. It felt like that is what that was the 6th and 7th show were Bethel. I felt like that they were building in every show. They were getting better and they were refining their craft. I feel like when they got to Hartford, we started to make the turn where all of a sudden we're like so many repeats. Repeats are creeping in.
Oh,
Sam had already appeared 4 times.
You're gonna just skip Bethel and go into the repeats. You're not going to talk about all the goodness that was.
I'm going into my overview. And then I'm going to say, then what I was going to say is, but you were at Bethel. What was your reaction being there?
All right. So this is going to be very guttural, blurred memory, not super analytical, but I remember Sample going and the history, the nostalgia and the history, recent history, but to Baker's and the potential that meant to have it jammed out. So to like touch into that again for me was super exciting. It was night 1, set 1, second, third song.
Probably the best one ever.
Besides the Baker's one, yeah, for sure.
I think it had more meat on. I think it was longer. I think it had more meat on the bone than.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
How was the girth though?
It's all about the girth.
Don't talk about my sample that way. No, and then so another highlight I remember was the gumbo. It wasn't like all the way there, but I've been chasing a good solid gumbo jam for a long time, and I think that's probably the best I'm gonna get. And then the Yem and bringing back the post vocal jam that the Bethel night one Yem was phenomenal. So anyway, I talked about the music, but the experience, that lot is beautiful with the grass and the mountains and the trees. The area is beautiful. There is zero service. So I mean that almost as like not almost,
They
definitely
played a
as
few places with no service this summer.
but this place was like you're in nature, you're out in the mountains, and it takes you away from the digital bullshit and everything, and it felt more like a festival to me because you had no service, you had no I mean, like Merriweather, we'll eventually talk about that. That's the opposite. It's like the suburbia metropolis, just buildings everywhere, and like you forgot something, you could go to the Target down the street. Like out by Bethel, it felt like a festival. So the vibe and the crew was great. The shows were great. Yeah, that was it.
What was anything a standout? Would you, here's a question for everyone. If you made a 10-song, 9-song playlist, would any of these songs from those shows be on there? Any of the performances?
Yeah, maybe the sample. I remember the Cross-Eyed, I think, was really good, but that has such a history to it and so many good jams. It's hard for a decent Cross-Eyed jam to, stand out.
I think the Cross-Eyed Into Miss You, though, even though I'm not a fan of that, I think that was well executed, ending up from Cross-Eyed, the funk upbeat thing, to Miss You.
Set Your Soul Free. That you're right. That whole set was really good, but that would take 3 of the 10 songs.
Oh, right, the split Caspian. Was there a gumbo that night?
There was a gumbo.
Oh, the first night.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Yeah. That was the gumbo it was the closest I'm gonna get, I feel like, to a properly jammed out. See, I don't know, like there's so many songs they have that have such good grooves that I want them to, but I feel like they want to go type 2, so they lose the groove. I wish there was like a split where like melodically they could go type 2, but rhythmically and groove wise they could stay in the pattern. Because
type
gumbo
1.5.
Yeah. What?
Type 1.5.
Yeah, 1.5 exactly. Yeah, no, that Set Your Soul Free was absolutely insane. Right. That whole end of that second set was, and then it was hot. That was the other thing. Okay, so then Hartford. I don't know.
It was a clunker, man. Breath and Burning, Yarmouth Road. Sigma was okay, but
Sigma was dope. Sigma was very good, and Sand was decent and hadn't been overplayed yet. How many did we end up with? 10 on the year so far. I mean, we're probably gonna get Dixon.
9 or 10 we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what else is that's an old school venue though, which is cool and shitty all at the same time. You forget like the conveniences you take for granted of like a modern new facility, like right. But then there's also shit that's not as good, right? Like there's something that was nice about that old school wide open venue. I don't know. I had a blast. That was one that I was surprised how much people hated on it because my personal experience was really good. But I was also super, not like actually high, but like, metaphysically still feeling high from the Bethel runs. So like, do you remember anything? I don't want to just be the only one.
Metaphysically high, is that what we're calling it now?
Yeah, you know what I mean. I don't know.
Oh, yes, D. I agree with D.
Yeah. God.
Look, apparently the ladies like Sand, so
Sand has only been played 7 times this tour.
7. Definitely get that
3 times before that this year. It's 10 times on the year.
Whatever that place is in New York and
Charleston, I think. Or was it Deer Creek?
Deer Creek, yes, they did the 25-minute one or whatever.
Right.
Oh, I was counting Deer Creek. I was counting the one from that tour, yeah.
All right, so 9 then on the year.
I don't know, man. You're the producer. Like, you're the one. Well, I guess this is you fact.
That's why I'm giving you the stats.
Right. That's how this works.
Yeah.
All right. So then we moved into Jones Beach, which I think they had just settled in and they were like, all right. Usually at this point, they're closer to the end of a tour than smack dab in the middle of one. You know, this was a longer tour.
Yeah. Yeah, that was that
Oh,
first
this was the Mike's Groove set, wasn't it?
not night one, was that night,
Night
two?
two.
Oh,
Yeah.
night
Night
two.
two.
Yeah.
Oh, night two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that
The
first
Mike's Groove show, because it was Mike's to open the show and Weekpot to close the second.
Yeah.
right, which as we just discussed, they just did that a couple of shows earlier. So this was really, I think, where they were getting heavy into like the heavy
Right.
rotation.
46
repeats.
Days showed up again. Again, a strong version, you know, but 46 Days has become, you know, a
Well, and I
workhorse.
know at one point at one of the after shows we talked about this, but kind of the average once they got into tour was between 4 and 8 nights, sort of before a song where the repeat
Yeah.
sort of schedule was. Some of the heavier rotation ones were like almost every 4 or 5 nights, and some of the longer ones were like 7, 8, or 9 nights. But it kind of became that rotation of songs that you kind of like that really kept popping up over and over.
Personally, I like that though.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying this is like where we started hitting that rotation of them, and it was more, which is great because just like we kind of felt in Fall Tour, when you kind of get a Carini here and then a Carini there and then a Carini later, like sort of builds, like you get these better versions of the songs as the tour goes on, and that's kind of
Yes, definitely. And that second night in Jones Beach, we got Something Living Here, and we got Don't Doubt Me from Sci-Fi, which was
Wait,
neat.
do you mind if I go back really quick though
Oh,
for
go
night one
back.
of Jones Beach?
How far are you going back?
Well, so the second set, what this set did was establish that the set list actually didn't matter, because the I Never Needed You Like This Before for the first time was jammed out, and if you remember, it had like those MoMA teases, and it was a really really good jam, and went into Leaves, which also got jammed out, and it was a very beautiful, cool thing that you wouldn't see from a set, like just looking at the set list, right? Like, and I thought that was a common theme throughout the whole tour from that point on too, was that like it wasn't the simple or the the stand like necessarily the tweezers anymore, or even the new ones like the Soul Planet. There were even newer jam vehicles introduced, so it kind of made me really excited for the rest of the tour, and it proved to be true that there was a lot of opportunity with songs that you wouldn't necessarily expect to have those opportunities. All right, we
Yeah.
can go back to the night two. Can I just say
it was
about
such
night
a good
one?
Never
Never Needed You Before.
I feel like the Mango song was wasted that night.
Yeah,
Should have been
It
somewhere else.
wasn't ripe yet.
but
What?
that segue, go back and listen to that segue. Just do yourself a favor. Oh, you don't go back and re-listen.
I do not go back and listen to whole shows. I will go back and listen to a song or two.
Listen to the
It's
segue into that Mango.
I mean,
was
who has
awesome.
time to listen to 3 hours of Phish again once you heard it? I mean,
when you're in the car,
Probably everybody watching
you're
this
walking to the liquor
show.
store.
I would imagine if I had to guess.
but the second night, I think that the second set they fucking knocked it out of the park with that. The Down with Disease and the Don't Doubt Me.
Dude,
The
Don't
Gold
Doubt Me
Age and the
so
Life Boy.
cool. I love the fucking Sci-Fi Soldier song. God,
Yeah,
I mean,
Don't Doubt Me is hot.
I liked Cosmo Vox a lot, and I didn't think I liked Sci-Fi, but I think this is now my favorite new material. Now that they're experimenting with it and getting more comfortable with it.
It's so fun. And you remember after Halloween how many people complained and were like, oh, this is gonna be this one. Imagine when they play these, they're gonna be so hard to play again, and no one's gonna want to hear them again. You're like, just wait till they start playing them and integrating them into the sets. They're gonna be so good and so much fun. And they're different. Like they're such different tunes. They're not, which makes them stand out even more, which is fun about them. They're not typical Phish, and especially like Ghost of the Foresty or like Slow Fit. They're good. They're deep. And they get dark, and they're nasty songs. They're sweet.
And
so
dance songs
cool.
too. They all got that booty moving groove.
They can get groovy. They can get dark. They can get funky.
Yeah. What's
up,
everybody's
Mama?
thought about people howling during howling?
No, I
People
felt like that was
fucking don't like audience participation.
It's
You know,
better than
Aaron,
gluing.
I think that guy Aaron Meanwell was right. That audience participation is intrinsic to the fabric of Phish's existence.
Yeah, I agree. I know when it happened last, the timed howlings in like the stop start thing is like a weird trigger for me, and I hate that I'm one of
Yeah.
those guys. I don't want to admit that, but I am in the moment. Like I hear people howling because it's out of time, which isn't their fault. I'm not saying that like Phish fans are shitty like musicians, but like the way the acoustics work, like they don't have monitors. It's out of time. It fucks up the group. But what I do like is in the jam when they break off of the verse, everybody starts howling organically and randomly, and it's like this weird monster mesh. Like
in the
you know,
2001
that was fucking cool. Like I really like that.
in the 2001 section.
Oh my god, I forgot what night that was, but that Wilson.
Oh,
movie-
Atlantic
Yeah, I
City
was
night
wrong.
one.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
We will get there. We will get there.
Yeah.
All right, so then we ended up in another weekend.
Yeah, so this one was the Walnut Creek Merriweather. I have lots to say about Merriweather, but as I admitted at the top of the show, I miss Walnut Creek. So
Right.
I don't know, Kev. I guess did
I
anyone
was-
else have anything to say about it?
It was really awesome. I like this second set opener with Big Black Furry Creature from Mars and a Carini. That was really cool.
It was definitely solid. The Steam Stash Steam is probably the standout from the first set. And can I just say that when they did Ruby Waves into Beneath the Sea of Stars and Light to close out that second set, I was like, Merriweather is looking up.
Kev, can I ask you a question?
Piper, then Light, then Shine a Light, which all was kind of fun. And yeah, I know your tweet about that was hilarious. You were like, everyone's excited it's going to Merriweather. So yeah.
Kev,
and
you
then
think
that
Sean's
encore.
talking about us or talking about Phish?
I think he's talking about Phish.
He was probably talking about
That also transitioned into the next weekend.
I like what David Strain is saying there. That's not how you treat your people, Wody.
All right, hold up. Why we're talking about comments in the chat?
Gatekeeping the
there's
wooing.
Barb Murray here, and it looks like she works at Alpine.
I
this
saw that.
weekend. And now she's watching our show because of the fans. Like that's
Nice.
really cool.
Oh, awesome.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
We love
Welcome,
everyone out in the Midwest, and they love us.
Well, I guess this would be a good time to remind everybody, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe.
And click that bell. Click that bell to get.
I know tour's over, but in case you were worried, we have a lot of new content coming up. We have the Wookiee Awards coming up in September. I'm very excited about that. Did a lot of production on that this week. We also have season 4, is it, of Live, Wook plus Live, which we're going to have a lot of great interviews. We're going to have more little serious interviews, not serious tone, but like actually take it. Somebody told us I needed to prepare more, so we're going to prepare more for the interviews. It's going to be funny. And then for this Goose Tray, what do you want to call it, Kev? The tag tour?
I was going to call it tag, but that kind of triggered Llama, so we're going to have to go with Taboose.
Taboose.
Taboose, I like it.
But for Taboose, we'll do some recaps. So there's a lot of shit coming up. So go ahead, subscribe. All right, we talk about Merriweather now.
Yes, let's talk about Merriweather. That was another show that Tim and I got to spend time together those 2 nights, and wow. They the first night I got my If I Could, it was like the only song I hadn't seen them play, and right out the bat. So that was cool that I was with a bunch of Twitter friends and we all got to share that together. But
yeah, it blows my mind that you were chasing that with the number of shows you've seen. I would have thought you would have definitely, but I guess
I
you
know.
know so
I
many
think
before it.
Back in '93, I got my first one.
Right.
But
I
I've
would-
seen a
I
lot
would-
of shows,
I
but they're
would-
all in the 80s and 90s.
I would like to know what Llama thinks, because he was actually the man in charge of the After Phish after show those 2 nights for Merriweather.
Yeah. All right, let me pull up the set list. I don't remember it off the top of my head,
Right.
but
They opened with Sand, didn't they, Tim? The
they
first
did
night?
open with Sand the first night, and then they played your If I Could, and
Right.
you had your moment.
I did have a moment.
Yeah, but I did like them playing Shafty and then Strawberry Letter 23. Like that was really cool, and then ending it with Lizards. That was like a great way to kind of end set one. I thought that was dope.
That made me feel like a tool because I was convinced that night that it was Olivia's Pool.
Right. Was that the first big
And I
controversy
was
of
wrong.
tour?
That was one that went halfway to the moon into Shafty or not Shafty.
It was like they were
depending on it.
trolling us.
I mean, it
Yeah.
wasn't quite shafty, but it was definitely more shafty than, which they made clear later in the tour when they actually played Olivia's Pool, and I felt like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, no, that other one was shafty."
That was
Yeah, it
a
was
great
fun.
segment there.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the lizards was, I tell you what, that lizards was so perfect. I sat on the lawn during the instrumental part and just the breeze was blowing, the speaker was right there in front of us, and one of Trey's most beautiful composed sections.
Yeah. And then you had Alumni Blues as your encore. Like, how great was that with a letter to Jimmy Page?
That
Isn't
is
it
fun
always?
to catch. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, now you're talking Kev Speed. He's like, I've caught 17.
I caught one at my first show.
3 of them before I became an
Yeah,
alumni.
but see, I just caught my first one of those at Dick's last
Oh,
year.
last year, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got it with Dick's Ref too. That was so fun.
All I can say about the second set the first night is they did way too many tunes and never found a groove really, except maybe in Fuego. I mean, the simple, they got into doing 6-minute simples this tour, which I just
love
think is
that.
weird. I
love
know
it.
you do,
No,
Lon.
but it's the worst part of the song. Like your argument, you
Yeah,
convinced
I
me-
understand your argument. Yeah.
right, because you convinced me when you're like, oh, the beginning is so
Yeah,
repetitive and like
true,
earwormy
true.
and whatever. But sorry, Llama's like, well, let's not focus on my hatred for simple.
No, that's fine. We can focus on it. The earwormy part, and then it goes into a new song with new lyrics, so I can focus on those, as opposed to having simple stuck in my head for an entire jam.
During a really spacey
27
jam.
minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that venue, I want to just touch on because it's such a dichotomy of a venue. I think inside the venue is probably one of my favorite, like of the tour of the various venues that we went to. But outside, by far, is the worst. Like it is. If you're not,
It's
if you
changed
haven't
so
been
much
there,
over the years.
you have to basically park in a parking garage unless you get there super early.
Or you have an oversized vehicle.
The
That's
cops
the
were
key.
fucking everywhere. I mean, just littered the place. You couldn't
got
walk
nothing
more
to
than
do.
50 feet without running into an officer.
Howard County, Maryland is like a nice place to live. You know, there's nothing fucking happens there.
Where the fuck did they hide that other stage? I saw Goose play there a couple weeks later. And
It's where they used to have something called Wine in the Woods. If you remember when the parking lot used to be a dirt lot instead of all those buildings that are there now, on the other side of that they had Wine in the Woods, and that's where they built
That's still there?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So basically they took the huge dirt lot and built stuff, but left the woods around it and the venue. So they just plopped this stuff in the middle of the property, basically.
Yeah. All right.
But you
So
know-
before, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the Columbia Association, which is what planned the community of Columbia, owns that venue, which also gives it some extra cool because it isn't a Live Nation venue. It's owned by the community, you know?
Well, it's the same people. Well, I thought it was the people. Maybe it's the people that run the 8x10.
Oh, yeah. They have the contract for it, right?
Yeah, they have all this promos in the venue of like the other clubs and shit.
Whatever. Yeah, John Schur is the guy's name who originally started that, but I forget what they call themselves now.
Yeah. Anyway, so during the week, I'm gonna just do a 2-pair now because the following weekend was kind of a big event on itself. But during the week, we got the Blossom and the Pine Knob shows, and these were some great fucking shows. This was a weird one where, even without attendance bias, you could feel the energy. I felt like feel the energy, almost reverse, because I know some people that were at Pine Knob that, because of the rain and the experience, didn't love this show. But I was very
if you
high
had to
on
stand
that one
out in the
set
rain
show.
the whole show, it makes it a totally different thing.
Right.
You're cold and you're like, when is this over? All right. So the first night, my highlight in the first set is the Punch 46 Days You Enjoy Myself.
At Blossom, yeah.
I think that was, and the Free in the second set was the mod. That whole second set was good. Esther, I know everyone loves Esther and wants to see it, but it just doesn't really do it for me.
And it's been played a lot lately.
It is.
Like,
It's grown
a lot.
legs.
Yeah.
She's back from the dead.
She's back from the dead.
That second set might have been my favorite set of the tour. It's definitely up there. I remember thinking at the time, and I don't know, I'm gonna have to ponder this a little bit more, but I remember at the moment thinking that Free was probably the jam of the tour. or up there at least. I mean, it was really, really good. And I think that in itself made that night, right? It was another one. It's kind of like The Man with Tweezer Fest. Like it, not that the first set wasn't good, but the second set elevated it to be a really good show. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, whoever brought the comments up, leave them up a little bit longer.
I'll
I'll try to read it. Then
I think it was Kev because it wasn't me, and Llama's got the phone in his hand.
I
So
have ADHD, so that's all my fault.
Kev's like, what? You didn't see your comment? We put it up on the screen.
Put it up on the screen.
Blake.
Speed read that shit.
I read through it 3 times in my head and then take it away.
Yeah.
I read quickly though.
give it 5.
Give it 5.
I read through it 3 times in my head, and it's up there for like 10 seconds.
All right. Well, then you should be doing it.
Somebody took over, so I was like, all right.
Well, we can share. This is
All right. So
it's community.
the next night, the story is rain and more rain
And delays.
And Jovi.
and
And then the best thing of the set was Everything's Right, which was ironic and probably didn't sit well with people that were like, fuck you, Phish.
dude, where's my fucking whatever? Well, the Bowie I think was solid, you know. But
Well, then he had to twist the knife and close it with literally twist and drift while you're sleeping. Like,
do you think that when they walk into a one set show scenario like that, even if they have a full 3 hours to play, like in a 2-set show, that it changes, like they rush, or do you think it like screws with them at all?
No, I think what they did was they took Set Break and they transformed it with the magic wand into bouncing around the room. And they played a first set that ended with Stash. They play Set Break music for bouncing, let everybody piss, get their beer or whatever.
That's
And
not
then
much
they open
time.
the second set with My Friend. That's what it
Okay.
felt like to me. It felt like a 2-set show structure condensed together with bouncing. I'm admittedly not super high on bouncing anymore, but it's weird when we say that, by the way. Like, oh, I'm high on this song, like stock or like, like, oh, maybe I'm the only one that does that. I don't know.
Lisner in 92, when they play bouncing, this guy starts skipping around the whole venue, like in front of the band, in front of the stage, all the way
Was
back
he
around. Then has a
bouncing?
security guard chasing him.
back in
Because he's
92.
bouncing around the room. And ever since then, they play that song, and I'm like, that dude was such an ass. What the fuck?
Good for him. He was having the time of his life.
Yeah, Kev. I mean, back in 92, that guy
Audience
was living,
participation, man.
right?
Right, I deserve that.
He wasn't wooing. He wasn't arooing. He was just skipping around the venue.
Just skipping around the
Speaking
venue.
of wooing, the next show was the AC weekend. The next set
Woo,
of shows.
that was a train wreck.
Woo.
Woo,
That Woosin
Woosin.
was an embarrassing moment for all of us, for the band, for the fan base.
Get it together, fans.
Come on, people.
It's like
Holy
just secondhand
shit.
embarrassment. Like I'm embarrassed for the people that were there. Like,
Yeah, dude, you watch like some super awkward shit on TV and like you can like feel it. That's what it was like.
yeah, like this
Wow.
show.
I have heard a few people say that AC Night 1 was the show of the tour.
Well, I think after that moment, it 100% was. I think.
Really? The cities was so short. It's like.
Well,
like
wait,
my
I don't think it's.
comments,
I'm
though.
not saying it's 100% the best show of the tour, but it was a very, very good show. I gotta walk my terms back after I thought about it. That was a bold statement. I'm
That
not
was
ready
a bold
to make.
statement because, yeah, exactly. And you were 2 songs down already to then.
The Ruby Waves in the Middle of Disease was cool.
The Sigma I would put on my mixtape, whatever. You were saying like put 10 songs on a CD. I think that Sigma I would probably put on that tape.
But
That
Kev's
was
right,
very
that
fun.
cities was short. It definitely left you wanting more,
10
which is
songs
what
on
they
a
then
tape,
played to
buddy,
close the
on a
set. They
tape.
did that a few times. What, Llama?
10 songs on a tape.
I'm gonna tell you, yes, you get 5. That would be a long ass tape. I don't even think a 110 could cover fucking 10 Phish songs from this summer.
AC is a cool place though to see Phish. I mean, it's not a cool place at all in general. Like it's
No.
actually kind of a shithole. But I don't know. This year I really enjoyed the the whole atmosphere and the environment of the shows. Like I had a really good spot, great crew. It wasn't too hot. The breeze, because all tour was so fucking hot, and getting that ocean breeze and being able to dig your feet in the sand. The thing is, though, like I feel like the fans in New Jersey, or maybe us while we're there, we're so much more aggressive. Like Bethel, you could walk around and everybody was so accommodating and peaceful and loving. And I would like try to get. I had, at one point during the first set, I had to like go grab to go to the bathroom or something, and people were like fucking pushing you over and like I don't
So you
know.
went over to the ocean?
Yeah, that's what happened.
Just
I didn't
went
want to say that, but that's
I'll tell you
definitely what happened.
East Coast energy is a real thing. We are very high strung, low key people is what you get on the East Coast.
Yeah. And I'm from Jersey, so if anyone's offended, I mean, no, you're not.
I wear that shit. I wear it like a badge. So the second night of AC, they opened up. They broke their streak of 32 openers without a.
And
repeat.
what did you say the night before? You were
I
all
had to
like,
fucking blow it, man.
We told you,
that
man.
recording.
Yeah.
"Yeah, I know, right?"
You don't talk about a perfect game, man. You don't talk about a no-hitter.
We aren't going to have any 20+ minute jams.
I don't have the opener.
We aren't going to have any 20+ minute.
Oh man!
All
That's
right,
gonna be a great
so
plan.
we got a Moon Age Daydream. Everyone seemed to like that. The
We
second
got
set,
a heavy rotation.
yeah,
That
this-
was the bust
yeah.
out of the tour.
Yeah.
it was it.
They've only been played one other time 6 years
Right.
earlier. The gap was, I don't know,
Huge.
but
From 2015, they played it when they had
7
the
years
tour
ago,
opener
yeah.
in 2015, and and Page did not have it together that first time. This time he nailed the
he
lyric.
nailed it.
Heavy,
It was
heavy
great.
rotation has a 253 song gap.
Nice.
Nice. That's a good
But
gap.
whatever song Fishman
Good
did is the
stat from
biggest.
producer.
Whatever the
Look at
song
us.
Fishman did is the biggest
Like
because it's never
HF5.
been played.
Yeah, no.
Whatever that song was.
I actually have no idea what you just said. I was going to comment on what you were saying, and I realized I have no idea what you're talking about.
I think for me, the second set, No Man Tweezer probably is the thing I'd listen to again off that.
Yeah. Yeah. Second set was weird. That Simple again was not what you would want out of. I don't know. Fell short a little bit, but it was fun, dude. It was such a fun show. That was AC. That's the thing. It was kind of like that same, like not festival like Phish Festival, but like a Bonnaroo or, like when they like play like a third party festival set. Like it was like for like the mainstream. Like we're gonna play our rockers, right? And I don't know. It was fun. Night 3, I think, was pretty good. I don't know. I don't have anything that
Yes.
sticks out. I think the Fluff Head was very good, very clean, but it was probably one of the most standard nights of the whole tour to me, right? Like not good,
Right.
not bad, not,
They were competent.
They were
You know,
fun. Like
The second set, the wave of hope here again, and for some reason it's always hanging around to You Enjoy Myself. I don't know if there's some like connection in the key they're played in or something, but
yeah, well, they transitioned really well. I think, was that the one where they just dropped into it again? They did that a couple times this tour where it's like they almost felt like rehearsed, or they had like there was no teasing or build up. It was just we are
This is
in
where we're
Wave of
going.
Hope, and then we're in Yem. It's like I
Right.
think earlier the MoMA, I remember there was one. Fuck, I wish I remembered this. There was one earlier. Oh, it was the night before, the 46 days into the MoMA,
right.
right? Where it was just like they flip a switch and they're on a different jam. I love that move, and that what was an example of it was that Yem and Wave of Hope.
Well, that was
That
still
is-
that second set was a great set. Mike's Hydrogen Pog, Wave of Hope, Yem, Susie. I mean, that's just a great lineup right there. And again, another Mike's Week of Pog Hydrogen. And this was like what I think the first time out of the 3 or 4 that they played
yeah,
they played it straight up. That
Right.
they did it straight. So
The groove.
got there, but yeah.
It was kind of special now, though, too.
Right. Like this is the way I prefer it. Like how they
Yeah.
opened up that night at MSG with it. Like I love
Mike,
it. when it's
Mike's has gotten
straightforward.
so short. They should call it a Makita.
But He's here every Wednesday, folks.
I had a question before. Well,
Yeah, that's your question.
all right. It kind of leads into the Toronto show because they close with Santos. Am I the only one that, like, for the first couple beats, I think it's Ghost?
No,
On which
no,
song?
I think that's a legitimate thing.
Right?
That's like
the
a
new-
Maze Bowie thing.
Yeah.
It is.
And I feel like maybe I don't know if this is a conscious thing or if it's just always been like that. And now I make the connection, but I feel like they lean into that when they play Ghost. They really emphasize the Santosness of the Ghost.
Yeah.
And vice versa. No, I think that's a thing. It
The
has that very
Santoness of the ghost,
Yeah.
Santosness of the ghost.
or the ghostness of the Santos.
the ghostness of the Santosness.
The story of the Santos.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can't. That's so weird because I'm like Ghost. Oh, Santos. Oh.
And actually, that's funny because it's ones I've never told you, and other ones like say it to me. So
Right.
like, there's like a whole dialogue that somebody witty could come up with those. Yeah, Toronto. So it was a standalone show. I think it was the only time that happened in this tour where it was just a one night. It didn't have the paired off on the Tuesday. It was just the Wednesday, and it was going into Alpine, which was the big close of the
Expectations
tour.
running
All the
high.
expectation. I feel like a lot of people, besides our Canadian, we love you guys, but besides our Canadian viewers and the diehards, like I feel like most people's attention and focus was on Alpine, and the Toronto kind of snuck in there.
Like the redheaded stepchild.
But it was a good
But
show.
they got a good show. Yeah, they got a great show, I thought. Like one of the better. It's always kind of that one-off where is it going to be like an Austin show or is it going to be like what's it going to turn into?
And it had the
good.
Hauser fucking nod in the second set. It was the 20th anniversary of the dude from Widespread dying, and they did Down with Disease, Death Don't Hurt Very Long, and then 20 years later,
Yeah.
it was the 20th anniversary.
And Tim got another bouncing.
That hasn't been confirmed. It's speculation.
It hasn't been. I like speculation.
Yeah.
I like market myself in that. Peddle it.
I feel like Death Don't Hurt Very Long 20 years later. That's a pretty on the nose thing, though.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And he had cancer, didn't he, or something?
With a
Down
Down
with
with
disease.
Disease.
With the
before
Down
that,
with
though.
Disease.
Yeah.
Right, and a sample in a jar to kind of open it. Like it kind of all has a theme.
Yeah,
Was
I
it-
didn't want to say his name wrong. Yes, Michael Hauser.
Was it 2001? If it's no, it would have to be 2002 if it was 20 years.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a good show. It was fun.
It was. It was better than I expected, and that's always fun when that happens. So
Yeah.
enjoyed and surprised. So
And then Alpine Valley was meh.
meh.
Is that just because of the expectations? I feel like
It
it
is.
ended meh.
You had some people were like, these are going to be the greatest fucking things. Trey's going to shit
I-
gold bricks on the stage.
Iculus is
It
going to come
started
down
off-
from the mountain with the stone tablet. It's happening,
Part the
people.
seas.
These 15 commandments.
Kaboom!
I
10.
disagree with you, Kev, by the
Command.
way, but I have a theory. I'll tell you why. Let Slama go first.
I was gonna say every one of these shows started straight fire.
Literally,
Every-
fuego.
Yeah, true. And then it goes into Clear
Literally.
Your Mind, which I don't know. I love that song and like the vocal play with like the Ralph mouth and all that.
Yeah, it's fun
Yeah.
as shit.
Yeah,
I think-
it's just so fun.
I think Kevin was burnt out. I think he was staying up till 3 a.m. doing these after shows for the entire fucking tour. And by Alpine, he was like, "You ungrateful assholes! I've been doing this."
Cocaine had worn off, and he's like,
Yeah,
"I can't
like-
do this anymore." Like,
He's
come
like, "I don't
on.
got any more amphetamines or
think I
coke,
need
and I
to
got to
go
do
home
3
and-
more after shows."
I need to go home and feed my dog.
At least he didn't bring
That
it
was
on tour.
the not jammed out, but the extra oomph on the ass handed was that night, which was cool as shit.
Mhm.
The MoMA was so good. That was a very good jam. That might
Yeah.
sneak in as like number 10 on my playlist.
Well, I think part of the
Actually.
problem is like it was good, and I mean it was great Fish as you come to expect, but the expectation on the bar is set so high that you're like, they got to do something awesome, and then when that doesn't happen, and you don't get
Right.
that like Forbans or Iculus or something crazy, then you're left going, oh, It was just an
And
okay
the
weekend.
last
of
time
great
they
Phish.
played Alpine, they did the Ruby Waves, and it was like a spectacular
And that first
show.
set that third night was just insane. They broke everything out. I mean, they
Yeah.
had the landlady, the Olivia's Pool showed up, and
I mean, you can't have that kind of Ruby Waves event every fucking
Right,
tour,
right,
let alone
exactly.
every run. Because
Well, that's
what
what I'm saying is like you're saying it was an okay run of shows of great Phish music. Like it wasn't just okay, it was good. Like it was
It was
expectations.
good. Yeah,
expectation was
that
high.
fucking 1999 opener.
The
like,
shows may not have hit your expectations, but they were still fantastic. And your expectations were probably what were more out of line than the shows. So
Exactly.
I feel like there should be a rule or a policy that you have to go back and listen to Charleston Night 3, whatever year that was,
Before you bitch about
2019.
anything.
Right, and then you listen to this Alpine run, and you're like, "Holy shit, this band's so good." and you're okay. So night 2, I was tired. like
Another
you,
nod,
Kevin.
right? Another
But
nod.
yeah, and we'll talk about that in a second. But just the energy of the 1999 and the funness, turning it on, like as I was logging in or whatever to put it on, I was like, oh god, I don't know if I'm gonna make it through the show. I was tired. The Central Time Zone thing fucking throws it off for us. Couch on the East Coast.
What's up with
And then
that?
the second you start playing and you have the volume up and you hear 1999, I was instantly, all that shit disappeared. I was like, I love this band. I'm so happy I'm watching this.
yeah,
And yes, that the nod to the 99 Fluffhead was really cool.
Very
And that was,
solid
I think,
again.
also on point. I don't think that was a
Right.
coincidence.
Okay, so I've
Damn right.
I'll put forth the theory that by the time they got to when they got to Petrichor, it was all downhill for this show. And let me just say that Petrichor on the album is beautiful, and I ranked it as number 6 in my top 75 Phish studio recordings. The problem is when they play it live, I want to hear it exactly like on the album. It
so
isn't like
you
Bowie
want to
that
go
you're-
see a jam band play their song, like the
But that
studio
song is not
cut.
a jam band song. That's a prog band song. It's like going to see Yes.
like yes. I
Genesis,
was just
or-
gonna say he wants it like yes, which is like
Yeah.
how it's
boom.
That was,
Exactly.
like-
that was a really good version of Petrichor.
I know everybody's on the bandwagon, and that shit's showing up at Dick's, and y'all are gonna have to buy me a beer.
It was cool having Numberline come out of the set too, because my
Yeah.
biggest gripe with Numberline is the weird, loose, lazy chord thing, to like bring it in. It always feels like a ripcord because of that intro. It's like the worst intro that Trey has ever written. It's just complete horseshit. But the song is pretty good. So bringing it out of Separate, I think, is actually a great spot for it. I don't know. I thought the second set was all right. I like Undermine. It's weird to have that close the set, but I always enjoy that.
I thought that the second set was good. The Mr. Completely was really solid.
Out of
About
the
to
maze.
Run.
yeah.
I don't know why
mean,
About to Run hasn't gotten some extra plays like some other songs.
It should. It was really good.
and then it
It
plays
is
on
really good.
Encore, which I could definitely go without, but yay.
Oh,
Sometimes
man.
people agree with me.
Sometimes.
All right,
Yeah.
so then we have the last night, and really that was the one that I thought they're gonna fucking knock it out of the park tonight, and it was fits and starts, and
It was
They had that
Stealing
whole-
Time, Sugar Shack, Shade, and
Big.
Halfway to the Moon. Like,
just killed the set.
Whoa,
holy
whoa, whoa!
sh-
Stealing Time's a great song. I love
I
that song.
agree, but you want to get something else after,
It
not
was 6
Sugar
minutes.
Shack
There
and
was no
Shade.
meat. No meat.
Yeah.
And yes, I know this, David, and I've talked about it. You get rid of the rest of the album, we'll keep that one. That's my
That's the only
deal with
one.
Trey.
That's the only one.
I ran into David a bunch of times this tour. That guy was all over the
He
place.
stayed here for Merriweather. He crashed here.
I ran into him at Merriweather, AC, I think Bethel. He's just like we're hanging out. He like pops up. He's like, there. He's like,
Hold
hey,
up.
what's up, man?
We kind of got to talk about that broken heart attack from
Oh,
that
definitely.
one. That was big.
That was.
What's
Nice.
with that
I was
bill?
wondering if his wife was there.
I'm just glad they
Excellent.
did. I like the hold your head up. Like I'm always a fan when they do that to like change the positions and stuff. That it reminds me of 1.0 joyness and happiness, and it always puts a smile on my face. So I was glad they busted that back out to like do it.
Yeah.
And the
It's
whole
always fun.
Martian monster sandwich around it was pretty
It
fun.
was fun. Yeah. I mean, that second set was good. It picked up where you got into the Sugar Shack shade, halfway to the moon,
Yeah.
everything's right to close out that first set. You're kind of like, ugh, man, we kind of hit a wall there after opening so well. And then second set got you back in, Energy, Jabu, Soul Planet, Rift, Reba. It's pretty raging. And then
right.
you get that, and then Martian Monster, Possum, Slave.
That's
Possum and Slave are strong to close out, and I think we got a pretty, an encore you probably saw coming a mile away.
But it's one you want. It's one of those ones. It's like Reprise. It's right up there with like Leave 'Em Happy.
Oh,
and
I would
Trey
take a
gets his
first
rock
tube
star
every
moment
night.
of like
Yeah.
the guitar and doing his thing
Yeah.
at Alpine and like getting his whole
Like an
rocks
encore
off,
with
so.
that shit. Make it their I Fought the Law, where they encore with that shit every other night, every third night.
He would do it. He
I
definitely
think
loves
the
it.
way they did end it in Encore, though, with First Tube is probably the best way to ever end a tour. I feel like that should
yeah.
always be the way they end a tour, right? Because it's such, I don't know, he does it so often now, it almost loses it. But like the whole Jedi, up on the mountain, hold the guitar up, like the
Fucking- it's him
80s
being a rock
metal
star,
poster with the
right.
lightning coming
So-
down.
So you're saying only
Yeah.
play it like at the end of the tour, like he's handing like the guitar back to like the gods.
Passing the
Right,
switch
he's like,
off.
oh.
Tour is over. Take this back.
Call back your Vegas pyro guy, just like. All right, so you guys want to do a round of horn some things, or I'll just throw out
Yes.
some general questions?
Yeah, throw out some questions.
Sure. Love
I am-
that.
Love that. Well, I'm gonna give you generic enough questions that you can bullshit if you don't have a good answer. He's like, whew, I didn't study for this exam.
Not at all.
All right, we'll start with Kevin. Go clockwise. Who was the MVP of the tour for you?
Mike. Mike was so clear in the mix, and he was dialed in.
So
last
what
summer,
does that mean? It's the audio engineer that fixed the mix.
no. I'm saying last summer it seemed like he was bored, just watching him on the streams, like he was.
He
going
has
through the
resting
motion.
board face though, in
Yeah.
his defense.
And this year it seemed like he was so into it and there, and it was like I don't know what happened. Like he popped the Viagra before tour, and he was just fucking good to go.
Like the jam version of it.
Yes, the jam version of Viagra, whatever that is. No, it's not Dicks.
T, what do you got?
Same one as always. CK5 MVP. And he elevated. I was wondering how he was going to do it. We talked about it on Osiris beforehand, but he did. There were more lights on the rig this tour than last tour. Like he had more on the stage setup and stuff. So he actually expanded the rig a tiny bit. But again, just from what you could see, I'm sure it was better in person. I'm jealous of everybody that was there. But from what limited amount they
You'll
showed
see
on
it,
TV
Dix.
was awesome. Yeah,
You'll
no,
see
I'm
it,
very
everything.
excited about that. Trust me, I can't wait. But yes.
I never realized before how versatile that rig is. I mean, I guess I did, but like this summer it was really put on display because every venue I felt like had a different arrangement because of stage capacity and size. It's like there was like a 60% version, like a 75% version, and then at like AC and some of the bigger sheds that have like the full, you have the 100% version. And it was never, I mean, obviously it was literally diminished, but it always worked for whatever package they had. And I don't know how complicated that is. Like if he has
It's
different
got to be modular,
programs.
so you can just add things to it and take it off.
Yeah, but you know how he has
Spacing
like,
wise.
he
Yeah.
has pre-made
I'm
like shapes and modes and shit. You would think if you just took out two sections that would get all fucked up, but he must have different programs, like the pre-programmed things for the different arrangements.
He definitely does. He probably listens to music, Phish, and figures things out that he kind of knows where things are going to go for. The more standard song, like a Reba, is going to be easier to do because there's no jam. His mastery is when everything falls apart and he doesn't know what they're going to do.
But that's what's so cool is like he's the one, like you'll always say, oh, Trey sounded like this, or Mike sounded like this, or I couldn't even see this, or I couldn't hear this. But you're like always kind of paying attention to the lights because you're always looking at the stage. So you kind of always see them and you always
I think
are
he
attracted to it or whatever.
orchestrates-
So
he orchestrates to his two guys. he has his right and his
Yeah.
left
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
And-
but
calls
it's
it
like
out.
Right. So
his
that's all
thing is like
preset.
always. I mean, that's why I think he's always sort of the MVP because you pay. He performs to everybody. Like you're always seeing his stuff, and it's not always just like,
No, Reba has a very structured jam, David.
Wait, I know we had one of these. Yep, there it is.
There it
Ah,
is.
There it is.
So
Mama,
who's-
what'd you think?
yeah,
Who is your MVP?
Who's your MVP?
My MVP would be Mr. John Fishman.
The
You want to
crowd was
elaborate?
So I want to like he was locked in, like he was dialed in, keeping the groove. I think he's doing a much better job now with sample placement.
Yeah, I agree. Sample placement was great.
wild. Yeah, he had a couple nights in Cavern and in
I was-
Aruba, I think he got one.
Yeah.
Maybe a Fluffhead he did right before, after the bubbly, groozy, groggy, whatever shit that is. It was like, yeah.
I 100% agree with you, Lama. I'm gonna jump in because I too think Phish was the MVP. I think his new kit helped. It wasn't just that it was new drums. I'm not like that fine-tuned of an ear that like you could hear the tone of the drums, but he also changed the arrangement. So he had the 2 floor toms plus the electric tom that on the bottom. So he has the 3 low ones and just the single tom up front. It changed his fills and it got it. He felt more like almost fluid with this arrangement. And he felt real. I don't know. There were a lot of moments throughout tour where he would just go extra. And Trey would even acknowledge it a couple of nights where he's like, let's do another song where we give Phish his solos, right? Because he just
Right?
he gave it. Not only was he so locked in all the jams and everything, but he just gave those extra bursts of excitement to a lot of otherwise standard shows.
Do you think that's why they gave him a jammed out ass handed?
He earned it? You think Trey has like a bartering system? He's like, all right, I have a standing contract with Mike. We're gonna give him 1 set killer a show, but Phish, you got to earn yours, man.
I don't know. I mean, it
No,
could just be that song's so silly. We're not going to do it. And they're like, all right, you've been doing a good job. We'll
I
let
feel
you
like anytime
rest of the
Ass Handed
song.
comes up, something just happened to them during the day, and they're like, "Oh, we got to play Ass Handed." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because Phish gets, I think, like owning of songs. I think a lot. Well, see, that's my personal opinion, but I feel like Fuego, Undermine, like there's a lot of songs that like are Phish's songs, right? I don't know, but he was on fire this tour. They all were though, right? I don't know. I think that's it. You guys want to call it?
I want
That was
to.
around the horn.
Can I just say thank you to everyone who watched and everyone who came on. There's such a long list of people who contributed their time to come
Don't
on.
forget
and-
anybody. If you're gonna start
I was
listening,
gonna say, I'm
you
gonna-
not
better-
even going to try.
specifically
I'm not even
call
gonna
out Jen for you since she's the one person you forgot to mention in the tweet. So
try. Yes, I forgot
Well-
Bandino too. I think. But comment on any of our content. It really helps us
all of our
subscribe.
content.
Click the little bell, get the
Any and all.
notifications. You want the most up-to-date shit, you go to Instagram, you go to Twitter and hit @Wook Plus, and there we are. Thank you.
I gotta say, I liked having T and Llama on. It's cool having the mix up and everything.
I missed
But I
him.
like having this group here. It's a fun group. And speaking of, T's been working on something that's coming out soon, so we're gonna give you a little tease, a little preview. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys at Dick's. Hey,